Hey everybody, welcome to Illegal Moves with Liz and Taylor.
Where we cover sports from the field to the court. Should
Okay,
probably look at the camera for that. Look in the
maybe.
people's
Oh, I guess we
eyes.
should.
Look in the people's eyes.
This is episode 1. We're gonna figure this out. All right. So a little bit about us. I'm Elizabeth Booker Houston, aka Booker Squared, on TikTok and Instagram. I cover all kinds of legal and political topics, and this is Taylor James. Taylor, do you want to tell the people how we know each other?
Sure, but you said your full name. I'm gonna say my full name because I have 3 first and 3 last names. I don't know if you know my Taylor Hamilton James.
I know Hamilton. I know
Blessed with
you.
it. If I ever write a book or do anything, real famous, T.H. James, I think would sound really, really fancy. But how? Yeah. So I'm Taylor. I am the Taylor of the Catherine and Taylor. Catherine is Liz's best friend for. You just had a friend anniversary. How many years is it now?
I
Is it
think
like?
22. And
Oh
if I
my!
got that wrong, Catherine
Did
will
I
say,
put you on? Wait, hold on. Just move your mouth, and then we'll edit it in how many years it was. But yeah. So I'm Catherine's boyfriend, and Liz and
well, life
I
partner. You're
are.
like, you're like, you're like,
Well,
y'all are
it's
more
we
serious.
are, and I see, and that's what's like. We're not married. We're not going to get married. That's not going to happen. And so we've kind of settled on partner, which I think is great. I think is great. But I can't help but always think like oh, who's Catherine? Like she's my partner. I just every time I want to say that every single time. But yeah. So
Taylor, who
yeah.
swears he doesn't have a southern accent and makes fun of mine. We're both from Memphis, Tennessee,
I
by the
did.
way.
Well, hold on a minute. I didn't make fun of yours. I just I love. I was more. I enjoyed that it came out and it was so strong and I do get and it depends on the company I'm in. If I get around, oh man, it just starts creeping in a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta rein that in a little bit because it does get out of hand. Yes,
A little
a
bit,
little bit.
but it's all good. So, funny story about Taylor is one of the first times that I really got to like heavily interact with him was at my wedding because my husband Billy and I, we eloped kind of. Our parents were there. We were getting married in my grandparents' backyard in Chicago. Catherine and Taylor, how long had y'all been dating at that point?
So we met in January, kind of started hanging out like February. So I mean, 4 months, four
Yeah,
months,
5 months because
four or 5 months. Yeah.
This was May 7th, 2016, and Catherine was, of course, as my best friend, going to come up to the wedding and be in the backyard with us, get married. And Taylor was like, "I don't want you driving by yourself. I'll go with you." And she was like, "Are you okay if this guy I've been dating for like a minute comes to your wedding?" And I was like, "Yeah, we just want to include him in all the photos." And um, and 7.5 years later,
Yeah.
he's
No.
coming
Hey,
over
smart
again.
move to be like, there's no pictures just in case. I don't want to.
And he ended up being in the best pictures the next year because once they were super serious and we had our wedding on our 1 year anniversary, we had like 200 people invited. Like we had a wedding on our anniversary for like all the other folks who had to miss out on the Chicago elopement. Taylor was a groomsman and
I got in really good shape for that. By the way, I
he
was
worked
in.
very hard.
I did. I water cutted for that, which is dumb. I don't know why I did that, but man, I fit really good into my pants. I have. It's fine. Cleaning has to. Golf stuff. Golf season is coming to an end, and I've just got to get all my stuff cleaned up. So
Yes, and Taylor does play. He is a golf loving man,
yeah. Well,
sports loving man, and
I'm a
so
sports loving man. That is what I truly am at my core. So
and that's why we decided, actually it was Taylor. I think it was your main idea to like start the podcast because I had been, and to give like a hint on today's topic, I had done some reels and some TikToks, very just short form videos about Michael Oher and this conservatorship, which is what we're going to talk in detail about today. And we started talking about other things that were just interesting in sports where there were just legal things that crossed over into sports. It happens all the time, just casually on the phone. And then Taylor was like, we should do a podcast because I'm the sports guy. You're the lawyer girl. We can
yeah,
do this.
I have done I did like a beer kind of podcast video thing in the past and have done some stuff and I've always enjoyed it. And for me, good creative outlet. Just sit here, talk, especially talk about things that I enjoy or want to learn more about, kind of thing. And yeah, I think we had actually Michigan, the whole Michigan State thing, which we'll get into at some point.
We'll get into that because
Because oh
that's
boy,
what really that's really where we started talking. But yes,
it
very
is.
excited, and we get along. Taylor, I adore him, and I'm happy that he's with my best friend. So this just makes it easier to have somebody that I can have a podcast with, I like to talk to. So
Absolutely, no, absolutely,
it's gonna be a good one.
you're gonna learn from me a little bit with some of the sports stuff. I'm gonna learn from you some of this legal stuff and maybe some more stuff along the way because you never know, you never really know.
So let's talk about Michael Oher. We are going to start with the stats and the facts. That's how we're going to start our episodes. We're going to break this down. Okay. So the facts that we have right now are that it was what, a little late this summer that it
Yeah,
came out that Michael Oher had been under a conservatorship by the Touhys. If you guys have ever seen the movie The Blindside, that is allegedly, we'll get into that, based on Michael Oher's life. And this conservatorship came out of nowhere because, and I'll get into more detail about it, but this was very improper for a conservatorship to be granted, and it was granted in Shelby County Probate Court. And that's where I came into talking about this because I, as a law student, while working in a legal clinic under a limited license, I handled conservatorship cases in the Shelby County Probate Court. So while I'm not an expert by any means when it comes to probate or conservatorships, I know more than the average person. I probably know more than the average lawyer just because I had the opportunity to actually work on this sort of case, and specifically in Tennessee because conservatorships and guardianships, the law around that varies greatly. You'll find that Tennessee is kind of different, and I'll talk more about that too, from other states. You are going to learn that it's very similar to California, which of course brings up the infamous Britney Spears conservatorship. And I do want people to have that in the back of their minds when thinking about this case. But long story short, Michael Oher found out he was under this conservatorship rather than being adopted. And all this time, and how The Blind Side portrayed it in the movie, was he assumed that he was under something, either an adoption or something like an adoption, and not a conservatorship. And apparently his attorneys found this around February of this year. A lot of people are speculating that it had to do with the fact that he just got married, I think the end of last year. And so maybe in trying to get all of his legal affairs in order with his wife and adding her to things, that's how his attorneys found out that this was a conservatorship and not just an adoption. So Taylor, do you want to tell us a little bit about who Michael Oher is? What are the stats?
yeah. Here's the thing. Michael Orr is a mountain of a man. Okay, at his best, 6'4", 315. This dude is an absolute beast. Okay, if there's one thing the Blindside did show when he was dominant, right? He was dominant. His senior year at Ole Miss, he was in a unanimous All American, was a first round draft pick in the NFL, and had a 10-year long career. The average career in the NFL is about 3.5 years. So played a long time, was successful. Bounced around a little bit. Did not win a Super Bowl or anything like that. But was oh, I lied. He did. He was on that. He was on that Baltimore
Oh,
team.
snap.
Mistake. He's even better than I thought. He did win a Super Bowl with Baltimore. Um, well, it's fine. We'll fix it in post because that's what they always say, right? No, we'll fix it
Are
in
we
post.
gonna?
Yeah, I'll probably fix it in post. Fix it in post. But here's the thing, Michael, or just unreal football player. He started every single game he played, 110 games in the NFL. Was dominant in the SEC. I mean, just as far as offensive linemen are weird. It's not a sexy position, right?
Right.
It is not a skill position. You don't score all the touchdowns. You're not, but you are a huge part of the team. And when you can have a guy like Michael Oher on your offensive line who can absolutely lock down, it is a huge, huge piece to the team, right? And he does have a very interesting story. The movie, it's a movie, right? It's Hollywood. It does
Right.
have to sell a movie, and you have to have your characters and I get it and whatever. He does have a really incredible story of somebody who really came from nothing, and because of his talents, made something of himself. And
Right.
I think that's you obviously find that across sports of
Yeah.
folks
And
that,
that's, I'm so glad you said that because a lot of people, so some misconceptions that we can go ahead and clear up right now,
yeah,
if anybody is familiar. So just some more quick facts. The Tuohys took him in because he was unhoused during high school. He was attending Briarcrest High School. They took him in when he was 17 years old and let him stay in their home. And what is Leanne's husband name? I swear I forget it every time.
Sean.
Sean. So Leanne Touhy and Sean Touhy, that's the couple. Sean Touhy, he worked for the athletic program, the football program at Ole Miss. Specifically, he was, what was he?
T-
What was his title?
Sean Tui.
Yeah.
So well, he was he went to Ole Miss, so University of Mississippi.
But
For those who don't.
He didn't work for them officially.
No. He
Okay.
was a sports commentator. He did that for a while. He also,
He was a
uh,
booster or whatever. Is that
he
what
was a
that is?
booster of the
Okay.
program. Yeah. So just, it was, that was, it really made sense when Michael Oher decided to go to Ole Miss, just because of the connections there. It made all the sense in the world. So
And the
just,
influence there.
and you'll find that, especially, I mean, in the SEC, very deep connections that run for a long
Oh, yeah.
time. I mean, obviously that's kind of, I mean, I think that's just generally in the South in sports, not just SEC. So
Right.
there's always those strong connections there. So anytime you've got a player like that and there is some type of connection, the school is going to, use that as much as they can to try to get those players to come to their schools. So
That makes total
big
sense.
reason why he went to Ole Miss.
Yeah, and I knew it wasn't. Yeah, I knew he had some sort of connection. I couldn't remember exactly what Sean's connection was, but Leanne and Sean Touhy took Michael in when he was about 17. He was unhoused. He was attending Briarcrest, which is a very prestigious high school in Memphis. Something that we want to get on the table is, when this story broke in a lot of comment sections, I saw a whole lot of folks who were saying he would have never gotten into that high school and been on the football team. He was already at Briarcrest. He got in on his own. He was already playing football. The Tuohys had nothing to do with Michael Oher and Briarcrest. It was actually someone else who had encouraged Michael to apply. And so he, at 17 years old, that makes no sense, by the way. That whole story, that part of the Blindside where they're like, at 17, all of a sudden, he's playing football at this high level. And he's been playing football since he was a kid, y'all. That's ridiculous. That part of the movie where she's like explaining Leanne Touhy, played by Sandra Bullock. God loves Sandy Bullock. She ain't got nothing to do with this drama, and everybody needs to leave her alone. She was just playing a part.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock and her character was teaching him how to block, and that is the most ridiculous thing ever. And one of the things that Michael took issue with is how he was portrayed in this movie, and we'll talk
Yeah.
more. But
Yeah.
just the facts there.
Let's lay this out there.
Yeah.
There are very few cases, they do exist, of folks never having played football and jumping in high school and being an athlete. Now, those folks are straight up athletes, and they could have probably gone on to any sport they wanted to. Okay, we are talking about a 5-star recruit who was successful. That just doesn't happen overnight. Obviously, in high school, right, it helps when you're just really big because not everyone else is anywhere near as big as you. But you still know how have to know how to use it and how to be athletic. So yes, he is a genetic freak, right?
In the
He
best
was
way.
in the best way possible, right? He was built to play football, and
Yeah.
he chose that and applied himself at it, and that is why he was very good. Now,
Exactly.
now,
150%. And
yeah,
he also several times at Ole Miss, from what I understand from what's been reported, made the dean's list. So the way they're trying to portray this young man as being just an idiot. His grades were fine. There's no, even if he struggled some, I mean, hell, I failed algebra too when I was in
yeah,
high school because I
um,
have all kinds of dyscalculia, number dyslexia, and I was an AP and an honor student, and I still went on to grad. So even if he had failed some tests or some quizzes and needed some tutoring, the way they tried to portray him as if he was just a total buffoon is insane
yeah.
because
Uh,
Briarcrest, he still had to make at least decent grades, and the fact that he went on to be successful in college and was able to, he did fine.
yeah,
Because even if they're going to talk about fluffing somebody's grades to be able to play football, nobody's fluffing your grades to be on the dean's list. They're going to fluff them to a D or a C to barely pass.
right.
They're not going to stick you on the dean's list just so you can continue to play. It makes no sense.
Yes, and
So
he finished his senior year with a 2.52. He had to retake some classes. He put in the work though, right?
yeah,
That's better. I dropped out of college for God's sakes. It's like so. He did what he needed to do, and we look. Us sports folks know we get it. Everybody's a communications major, right? And there's all
yeah,
this stuff, and there's how. Look, okay, it's high level sports at that, and I would like to at one point we can just get into the NCAA in general with all their fun stuff. Um, it's a business, like it's a business. Like
yes,
they can say they're not for profit and they're for student athletes, but like at this point, the amount of money college football generates, it's a business,
yep.
and NILs and all that fun stuff, and that's just
And
like a whole that's
we're
a
going
whole
to talk
can of
about the NIL
worms, right?
lawsuit.
Because that's a obviously hot topic right now.
Yeah,
Um, but whatever you think happens in college football or whatever does happen in college football, it doesn't matter. The kid got into an SEC school,
hmm,
right, and was successful on the field and in the classroom, and was
yep.
able to graduate from college. So,
Exactly. And a
like,
2.52, y'all can shake your noses at it. That's a C plus. So you know what? We're gonna take it because
yeah.
I believe there was a, didn't they say George W. Bush ran the whole country and was a C student? Come on, So
Hey, man! C students run the world, man.
I
It's
mean,
it's
really
it's
though. And so all that aside, the whole point that Taylor and I are trying to make and really drive that point home to the folks who want to be naysayers in those comment sections and just put Michael Oher down, he earned what he got and he did it. The Touhys, they saw a young man they wanted to bring into their home that was already talented, already on that path, already a 5-star recruit. No one needs to take that from him. So we'll start there. Now, when it comes to this conservatorship, what happened and what a lot of people remember in the movie is that they said they wanted to adopt him. Now, the excuse that was given when the conservatorship came out and that was revealed was that, well, he was too old to adopt. Some people tried to make that excuse. That's not true. I just want to also put legally on the table in Tennessee, you can be adopted after the age of 18, and it's actually really easy to do. So if they waited until his 18th birthday, they could have absolutely had him. All he has to do is sign some papers and say, I want to be adopted by them. It is much easier to adopt an adult, at least in the state of Tennessee, than it is to adopt a child, a minor child. So that makes no sense. They could have absolutely adopted him. What that would then entail, and you can draw your own conclusions from this because there's been no official statements made. If he were legally adopted, that also means that he would be legally entitled to the Tuohy's fortune in the same way that their biological children are. So you can take from that what you will. Um, but let's talk about conservatorships real quick in Tennessee. Having been someone who worked on conservatorships, I want to point out that I worked in a medical legal partnership clinic. That's where you have lawyers, social workers, and doctors working together in a pediatric hospital, specifically a pediatric hospital in Memphis at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital, where we gave pro bono services, meaning free, to children who had significant health needs and who were low income. And what came up very often is there were profoundly disabled children who were going to be completely unable to care for themselves throughout their entire lives for various reasons, whose family members, usually parents and older siblings, had been caring for them this whole time. And they're about to become legal adults at 18. And in order for them to continue to be covered by insurance by their parents or their siblings to be able to have those people make medical decisions for them, you get what is called a conservatorship. In the state of Tennessee, a conservatorship is something you get on anyone who is age 18 or older who is significantly disabled to the point that they cannot make any legal decisions about their personal and financial life. So, personal being everything from like where they live, all of that, to financial, any kind of money that they might have coming in. The children that who were becoming adults that I did these conservatorships for typically didn't really have any money beyond the Social Security disability checks they had. They relied a lot on their parents, adult siblings, people like that to continue to financially care for them. But even so, one thing about conservatorships is you have to give financial disclosures every single year to the Shelby County Probate Court to prove that you're not taking advantage of this person. And again, these were very, very rare cases that these would come up, and we would go through everything with a fine tooth comb. And And I'm going to tell you, I went in front of Judge Kathleen Gomes for all the conservatorships that I did. And that's very significant here because Judge Kathleen Gomes is the one who was assigned to recently handle Michael Oher's conservatorship. Um, she does not play. If a disabled person in any way has any sort of autonomy that she thinks in any category of their lives to be able to make decisions, she will strike that from the order, as she should, because I do think that people should have the maximum autonomy that is afforded to them. We've seen it happen way too often with disabled people, that they're taken advantage of, not treated like humans. And then you have cases like, let's bring it around to Britney Spears,
Yes.
where you see these being used to completely take advantage of an individual. The Britney Spears conservatorship is absolutely appalling. And I want to point out that with that conservatorship, they were able to cite, even though still not right for them to do, they were able to cite some sort of mental health need, a mental struggle to try to justify this. In the conservatorship for Michael Oher, it very clearly states that he had no intellectual or physical disabilities in the conservatorship order. And in the state of Tennessee, you are never supposed to grant a conservatorship if there isn't like a severe physical and intellectual disability. So they
So
state it in the order.
we'll just to show you that he did not, as far as I believe, have any physical disabilities. Here are his combine measurements: 6 foot 4.5, 309 pounds. His 40-yard dash was 5.16. For reference, in high school, I was same height I am now, so 5'7", 5'8", whatever. I read like a 5'2". Okay, I was slow, but like this man's 6'4", 310 pounds. His 20-yard shuttle, 4.6. Three-cone drill, 7.81 seconds. 31-inch vertical jump and an 8'7" broad jump. He benched 225 for 23 reps. Okay,
So we know no physical
that's
disabilities.
a specimen right there. Okay.
Yeah. And we know no intellectual disabilities because what we just stated earlier about his success in high school and college. Like, even if, I mean, there's obviously none of that. But even if there was some argument to be made, the judge who signed the order straight up admitted in the order himself that there was no physical or mental disability, to the point that Judge Kathleen Gomes, when she got this order in front of her, she was shocked. She was pretty disgusted, and she had no idea why this order was put in place because it made absolutely no sense based on what the law requires, and she terminated that order, as she should. If people are interested in looking at the order, I've shared it on my social media page, on my Instagram and my TikTok. And the attorneys who represented the Touhys were Ballin and Fishman, and the order was signed by Judge Robert Benham, who is retired and is now in California. And if y'all want some gossip now, because Taylor and I promised, since we're from Memphis, we from Shelby County, we kind of know some of these
Born and raised.
Born and raised. I have been in Judge Benham's home in Memphis, Tennessee. I was when I saw that name, and I had a friend back home who was an attorney send me a copy of that order, very kindly, and said, Judge Robert Benham signed him. I don't know who that is. And I was like, holy shit, I do know who that is. For the funniest reason, my mother made custom curtains and all kinds of stuff like that. And she made some things for Judge Benham's wife. And I used to help my mom a lot of times go deliver these things and all of that. We got to talking. They found out I was going to start law school. This was after he had retired and everything. And they said they were getting ready to pack up and move to California. And he lived, Taylor, by the way. So, you know that, like, those huge mansions when you go down McLean and you turn off into that cove that, like, leads near Overton Park, like,
Yep.
really, like, right on top of, like, the zoo. They lived in one of those big old mansions. And
nice.
it was just a strange thing to see all of this in the news and seeing, like, it was very strange for me to see all of this happening in the news and then realize how I was in some way, even if minor, connected to some of the people in this. The fact that I'd been in front of Judge Gomes in her court, the fact that I had been in Judge Benham's house with his wife and chatted with her, and he had given me some, like, random advice about going into law school. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what advice he gave me, but I ain't taking it because, sir, you don't know how to grant conservatorships.
And here's, for those of you not in Memphis, and your city, however big may be like it as well. But we always talk about Memphis, how such a small town this place is, and it is 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon all the time
all the time.
with folks. I went to a new side tangent. I went to a new eye doctor. Turns out she's the sister of one of the beer distributors I work with, and like know him super well. And I was like, I'm calling him right now. Got to call him right, you know. So small
It
town.
happens
So
all the time.
everybody ends up knowing everybody and knowing everything about your business.
So speaking of that,
if you're
Taylor,
not
what you
careful.
know about the Tuohys?
Well, you know, and again, it's one of those things. You know, high school kids talk, and you know what's true, what's not. But
So to give context, Taylor and I are in the age range sort of
yeah,
for the Tuohy's kids.
yeah. I'll say this. I went to another private high school in here in Shelby County, and kind of ran around the same people. And I never. How do I put this? I never heard anything too kind
There's that Southern.
about about our his, I guess, adopt. Well, it's not even his adopted brother. His conservator brother. Never really heard anything too nice about him, and that's, you know, again, I think it's one of those things. I know, you know, you're meeting one person once, you're going to tell 10 people, but I never heard anything too great. You know, and you know, of the Tuohys, there has been lots about them, you know, and we were having this conversation earlier. It is hard to be someone who makes a lot of money and is always a good person.
Yes.
It's just hard to be. I'm not saying there aren't people that do it. There are, but you know, I think here
We're
in
saying
Memphis,
capitalism is predatory.
yeah, and I think in Memphis, you know, at least among, like, I think our age folks, you know, I don't know about older folks that maybe know him or whatever, but when this story broke, I know a lot of people are like, oh well, he's been trying this for years and all this stuff, and no one, I think, in Memphis was really like, almost like we weren't surprised by it. I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. You know, and obviously we'll let it play out, you know, in court and everything, but it wasn't very shocking to me, just from the stories that you hear about folks, because people do talk, especially if you're not a kind person, and
Yeah. And
um,
the Tuohys also, they own a ton of fast food restaurants. Okay.
they did. I believe they
Did they
sold them.
sell them?
I believe he
Okay.
sold them. I think that was one of the, you know, one of the ways they gained some wealth. You know,
So there's a
over the
funny
years.
story. If you remember, I don't know if you remember this, but it was all over. This was before I graduated law school, before I moved up here to DC. Um, there was a viral Facebook post, viral from Memphis, y'all. It was viral from Memphis and ended up on a local blog. You could probably Google it and still find it out. Last I checked, the blog was still up. I don't know, but that was about a month ago. Um, so Leanne Touhy was at one of the McDonald's that they owned and said and made this whole Facebook post about how she saw two young black teenage boys in the corner booth talking quietly among themselves, and she went over and said, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" And they said nothing. And she said, "Well, I own this place, so you got to tell me what's going on." And sure enough, they told me that they were trying to get enough money together to go to a movie. And so I said, "Oh, well, here you go. Let me give you this." And then she took a picture with them, with these two young black men standing so awkwardly, and like posted it so that everyone can tell her what an amazing white savior she is. And then one of the young black men commented after posting going viral. He was like, "I'm so embarrassed." And he was like, "I just want to be clear. We were not broke, and our parents had the money and were willing to come bring us the money to go to the movies. We were just trying to figure out if our parents needed to come bring us the money." And she stepped in, and we didn't ask for it or want it or anything. And then somebody said, "Well, how did the picture come about?" And she said, the young man said, "Well, she told us, oh, this would be a great moment for a picture." And before I knew it, her friend was snapping a photo of us. And like, several things wrong with the story. One, I don't care if you own the place. Why is it your business to go up to somebody having a private conversation and demand of them to tell you what their conversation is about? They weren't shouting, fighting, causing a ruckus. Two young black boys just sitting in a booth, huddled between them, talking. Like, mind your business, for one. And for two, it's like, you have a problem, ma'am. You really like to try to find these young black men and just use them, like you used Michael, to try to like amplify yourself. And so she got a ton of flack for this, and
Yeah.
all over Facebook and everywhere else. And it's just, it's indicative of what folks around
Well,
Memphis will say when it comes to these folks not being so kind
right.
and also being very disingenuous.
And I think, and that kind of leads me into, so a lot of people think that this particular thing for Michael Oher is about money. So let's talk money. Also, here's some fast facts for those who don't know about sports, right? So a lot of folks will see contracts get signed, right, and they are for ungodly amounts of money. What you guys, what you need to understand is front offices are very good at um, working around a salary cap, right? They are phenomenal with, okay, here's how much money I can spend. And then you're like, well, it's here. How are they spending this much? Well, see, we added a player option year, and then see, we converted this to a signing bonus. And then it's very technical and very weird. So let's talk about money real quick for Michael Oher. So he signed the following contracts when he played in the NFL. His original contract was a 5-year, 13.8. Okay. He then signed a 4-year, 20 million with the Titans after his time with them. He then signed a 2-year, 7 million with the Carolina Panthers. Uh, he then signed a 3-year contract extension worth 21.6, 9.5 million guaranteed. Right. That was in 2016. He was released in 2017. Okay. So some quick math there. 21.6, 28, 48, 60. Okay. We're about 65 million. Okay. That's what he signed for. Now, his career earnings ended up being $34,506,875. So, right. Now, I like most, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of
It's a
money.
lot of money. And if you're smart with your money, then you can make that last a long time. Now,
Right.
it's over 10 years. So over his 10-year career, he averaged, 3.5 million a year. Right. So part of me, and I, you can speak with conservatorships. This, I think, partly is the fact that he has been just so taken advantage of since he was a kid that I don't necessarily think that this is all about the money.
No.
I think this is somewhat about kind of taking his power back a little bit, taking himself back from folks that he think took it, from him. So it's like, yeah, does he need the money? Probably not. I mean, I wouldn't imagine that he is like struggling. He's still,
There's absolutely zero evidence that he is struggling, though people
yeah,
are coming to that conclusion and saying, oh, now he's trying to dry the Touhys up because he blew all his money. And like, there's no evidence. He just had a beautiful wedding. He's got his wife, like he has a home he owns. Like there's
yeah,
literally zero evidence. There's not an IRS issue or liens or, I
yeah.
mean,
If the story
there's
had
not.
come out, if the story had come out of Michael Oher files this, and then there is the next story is he owes 15 million in back taxes, or I don't fucking
Right.
know, whatever. I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh well, that seems shady.
Maybe. But yeah,
But
but
as of now, as of this recording, right,
there's
that has
nothing.
not happened.
Yeah, and
So
this is the thing. So people ask, like, with the money. Let's first of all talk about the conservatorship a little bit more so that people understand how severe this is. The conservatorship, and you can read it in the order, gave the Tuohys to make all of Michael's medical, any of the decisions about his life over him. Not if something were to happen to him, and then they literally had the authority to make decisions against him. Had they done that? No. But would you want to have that in the hands of people that you really don't even talk to anymore? Like, the number of folks who were just like, why is he making it an issue now? Like, what? So you would be fine with that. You would be fine with some people who you don't really have a relationship with anymore, who you also feel that you've been hoodwinked by, regardless of what everybody else feels. If he feels that way, you would be totally fine with them if you were on life support. Those people making the decision to pull the plug on you instead of your wife, legally? Because even marriage couldn't break that.
Yeah.
Conservatorships last forever in Tennessee.
Yeah.
They are meant to be permanent because they are not supposed to be used for anything other than someone who is severely and profoundly disabled.
Yeah.
That is all. That it's not supposed to be used for anything else. And so, again, the number of people who were saying, well, why now? Why didn't he notice before? And I asked, and I responded to that question with another question. Did you actually know what a conservatorship was before Britney Spears?
I no.
Yeah.
I mean, I you know, for mine, I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know what
I
that
didn't
was.
know what a conservatorship was until 2015 when I applied to go work in that medical legal partnership clinic, and I learned the ins and outs of it and how it varies from state to state. Why would somebody else learn it? And so it makes perfect sense to me that his attorneys would discover it. Now, there are folks who keep bringing up that apparently in one of the autobiographies or something, he used the word conservatorship. Just because that word was all, that means nothing to me. It would not surprise me if they said conservatorship is, well, it's like adoption, Michael. Well, it's the same thing as adoption because that's how they portrayed it to him. Just because he knew the word conservatorship does not mean that he knew the extent of what was going on. And again,
Yeah.
why would he? Because a judge who is an expert in this and works in probate court in Shelby County all day long, Judge Gomes, she was completely baffled by this and disgusted by it. Like, it's something that makes no sense. And so for all these lay people out there, so I'm looking at y'all who want to talk a big smack and talk a big game and say, well, he should have known. Baby, be quiet. Because I know damn well y'all don't know what a conservatorship is. Y'all don't know what a guardianship is. You can't tell me the difference right now. You'll Google it, read it, and still give me the answer wrong. You have no
Yep.
idea what entails in any of this. And so I would just encourage you to shh. Because the
And
number of people who don't know what they're talking about passing judgment.
also
He deserves his autonomy. He
let's
deserves
go
his
let's
autonomy.
take it back, right, to when he was 17, right? And you know, this kid, right, who, you know, the situation he was in and where he had been and where he'd come from, was told by a group of people who he believed had his best interests in mind and
Mm-hmm.
who loved him, suppose, right? That, I mean,
Supposedly,
and I don't
allegedly.
want to put words in Michael's mouth or whatever, but I know if it was me and somebody was like, listen, this, we think this is what's going to be best. Like, okay, if you think, if that's what's best, then I like, you're adults and are successful. So clearly you know a thing or two about something. So I'm going to trust them. And the thing is that, right, he has now learned that that trust isn't there, or it's not there. And let's a reminder of what he's asking for, right? So he asked for the conservatorship to end. Okay.
Right.
He wanted them to
Which you
not.
have to sue for. Because a lot of people said, why is he suing? That is the proper route. The person has to sue to bring into the conservatorship. So it's not petty.
Right.
That's legally what's required. Let's go ahead
Uh,
and mention that.
he wanted an injunction barring them from using his name, image, and likeness.
Yes.
Okay.
Reasonable.
Reasonable. He also wanted a full accounting of the money earned using his name,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not money they have earned, you know, doing what, using
Yep.
his name.
Yep.
He wants to be paid for his share of profits
Mm-hmm.
and compensatory and punitive damages.
Yep. And that all
So
makes
what
sense.
he is asking for is, like, I hate to say, like, what he's owed. Like, I'm not saying, you know, but kind of just like what he's owed. Like,
And
I
let's go ahead and
mean,
address the elephant in the room in that the Touhys are alleging that they have paid him $138,000 because they split the profits 5 ways for the Blindside. First and foremost, I think $138,000 is absolutely pathetic, especially after they have portrayed this man in a way that's a complete misrepresentation of him. Let's start there. Because
also
the number of
let's
people
that was from June 2007 to April of this year.
to April of this year. Okay.
So
To this day, people are still thinking that he's the number of people when I was covering this the first time before the order was revealed, who kept saying, "Well, he was intellectually, he didn't know, like he'd like in the movie, dirt, 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 dirt." Y'all, the movie was a lie because, like I said in the order, even Judge Benham, who signed that order, said he was not intellectually disabled. He was
It's
perfectly fine.
Hollywood.
Hollywood. Yeah. So let's go ahead and start there. But then, yeah, I don't think $138,000 would be enough for me to have my whole image and
Well,
likeness.
I think another simple question before all this, right? Before, because
Yeah,
I know people now know Michael Oher's name maybe somewhat from this,
yeah,
right? But after The Blindside comes out, between that point and earlier this year when he filed the lawsuit, show me the number of people who know who Michael Oher is versus the number of people who know who Leanne Touhy is.
exactly. Because here's the thing: why are they splitting it equally 5 ways? That movie is not equally
Oh, did they
valuable.
play the game?
That's what
Oh,
I'm saying. What,
did you guys suit up?
are y'all equally able to get a movie in Hollywood about yourselves without this man? No, I don't know why they're splitting it with this kid. No, give your kids. That's the equal split, whatever. Okay, but when they did this under the conservatorship, meaning that they took away his bargaining power because he very much could have bargained with Hollywood and said, I want more money. I don't want the Touhies included. They need to get a smaller cut, which again is reasonable when the movie's about you and you're the star. And also, I want to make sure you portray me correctly and accurately. Like, he lost all that bargaining power. And then on top of it, they're talking about the movie, but how many times did they maybe say, oh, this Taco Bell that we own, it's the Chewies as seen in The Blind Side with Michael Oher. Like, how many times did maybe casually Leanne and Sean throw around The Blind Side and Michael Oher and their great big deed that they did for
Yeah,
him,
sure.
allegedly? How many times did they maybe use that for other opportunities throughout Memphis, kind of informally? Like, how do you calculate that? Because they definitely did. They even the young men who took the picture with her at the McDonald's, those young boys, just like a random aside to show, the young man who was upset about it, he said, well, I know that's Michael Oher's mom, which again is another example of how everybody around town, because the way they portrayed it was they portrayed it as if he was adopted and he was their son, even though that wasn't true. But he even said he was only so polite and patient with her because he knew that was Michael Oher's mom. Like, they definitely leverage that around town. And then I also just want to put this on the table. We're talking about money, Taylor, because you and I talked about this before, where people kept saying, well, if he's not broke, why is it about money? You have to prove damages to bring a lawsuit, y'all. That's how it works. Even if
So
he didn't need the money, even if
so
he didn't want the
yeah.
money, you have to talk about money in order. It's one of the elements that you have to prove to show that your case is worthwhile. Otherwise, people would be suing each other for all kinds of things.
So what you're saying is he couldn't just say I'm sad.
No. You
Oh,
have to
he
show
can't just be like, man, I'm upset.
you have to show damages.
Weird.
This comes up. I'll give an example of this. This comes up all the time in defamation cases where people will say, well, they spread lies about me. Can I sue them for defamation? It's like, okay, well, what are your damages? What? Well, did you lose a whole bunch of money? Like, how much money did you lose? What was your law? Well, I'm just upset because they're lying on me. Okay, well, and this comes up because I am a content creator. This comes up all the time in the content creator space where people will say, I'm suing for defamation on TikTok or whatever and some drama. No, they're not, because they got no damages. So this is just an example of why damages matter. So it has to be about money in order for him to get the justice that he is owed in court, because that's unfortunately the way that our justice system is set up in the US, is that we have to account for human beings with a dollar amount. And it's kind of gross, but what
Yeah.
else is he supposed to
Yeah.
do? But he
So
doesn't make the justice system. He doesn't control it.
right.
Obviously.
So there's going to be stuff coming out about this probably over the next year. I mean, this
Yeah.
isn't going to be I mean, unless the Tuies decide to settle or do something, this obviously is going to be going to it's going to go on for a minute. I hate. I guess I don't want this to just be what Michael Oher is remembered for,
No.
because he was a fantastic athlete, fantastic football player.
He seems to be a very kind person because, like you
Yeah,
said, he played for the Ravens, right? And I've talked to people in Baltimore who have said, like, "Oh, he came and spoke at my high school,
yeah,
and he was so nice." Like you don't the way people are trying to drag him and say, "Wow, he's all of this, he's that, he's this, that, and the third." I have never heard a bad thing about
yeah.
this man. Everyone who has ever met him, every report about him says he's kind, he's humble.
Yeah,
A
no,
lot of
no,
people
no
like to point
scandals,
out,
no
oh,
scandals in the
no
NFL.
scandals.
Let's remember that,
He's
no scandals.
seemed so far a loving husband. I know he's newlywed, but so far a
Well,
loving
well,
husband.
hey, I think they've been together for 17 years.
That is so beautiful. This is what I'm
They
saying.
they
That's
met
so
they met at
beautiful.
Ole Miss.
That is beautiful, y'all. This is a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah,
man. This is not. This is so that I think that's what's most upsetting too is seeing the number of people who see him trying to sue because again, I'm pretty sure that a lot of y'all, if you went through that and had somebody who completely misrepresented your name, made you look like a fool, and had medical control over your life despite whatever, y'all would be wanting to scorch
if
the
you
earth.
had the
I'm
means,
pretty
if
sure.
you had the means to
Yep.
go after someone like that,
Exactly.
you would do it.
Absolutely. I know I would. And but again, one thing I also want to point out is the number of folks in Baltimore who have told me, yeah, he came to speak and he talks nothing like that in the movie. They made him seem slow. That's the term that I've had other people use
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
They like
Well,
don't use that in an unkind way, but that's the specific word that
well,
people use. They're like they try to make that boy seem slow because you know country people are. But
yeah, and if you want, so there was a book called The Blindside, and he was featured in that book. His story, it was part of a. There's more than just his story in that book, but Michael Oher did write his own autobiography called "I Beat the Odds: From Homelessness to the Blind Side and Beyond." So you can read, his story in his own words. Without any type of necessarily Hollywood flair in there, and those are his words, and you can learn a little something about that. But this is fascinating. I mean, just there, and I can. Nothing like this has ever happened with an athlete. Um, while there have, I'm sure, been folks that went on to great success that maybe were fostered and then adopted or whatever with folks, or came from nothing, brought themselves up. There's never been a story like this, as far as I know, in at least in United States professional sports that I'm aware of. Can't speak internationally, but that's why this is a big deal, because
yes,
this is a weird one. And it obviously for Liz and I, it hits close to home. It is right here in Memphis. This is where he made his start and where the Touhys made their name. So,
I ain't
um,
never in life seen a high profile national case come up and go, damn, I know both judges involved. I've never had that happen before.
no,
That was wild. That was absolutely wild to me.
yeah.
But so we'll, if there's updates, we'll cover it again. But I want to kind of switch to a little segment that I think we're going to do at the end of every episode because sometimes the subjects get
I
a little heavy.
I was a little fired up during that. Just a
You
little
were fired.
fired
I was
up,
fired up.
a
I
little
was
bit,
getting
a
angry.
little
It's
bit, a little bit.
like, but yeah. So one thing that Catherine, my bestie, and I, Taylor's partner, and I joke about all the time is Taylor's complete. What is the word here?
It's not. Hold on. It's not complete. Okay, complete is a very
Okay, not complete.
encompassing word.
Not complete, but
Oh,
hilarious ignorance to a lot of things in pop culture.
there are a few things along. I just turned 32, um, and maybe there are a few things that I have missed along the way. I have taken in a lot of things, but yes, I have maybe missed a few things. So, what do you think I have missed that would make my life better knowing it exists?
Okay, so I've been trying to think of how I want to do this segment every time we do an episode. And so today, how I'm going to do it is The Blindside came out in 2009, right?
Okay.
Starring Miss Sandra Bullock. I love her.
Okay.
Do you know what other movie came out that year that Sandra Bullock started?
2000. So this is 2009. Okay.
Yes.
Um. Okay. Uh. Was it a successful movie?
Semi.
Semi.
Semi-successful, I think.
So, and I
It's not my
cannot
favorite Sandra Bullock movie
I
by any
cannot
means.
remember the time. So, okay, so I'm going to take more. All right. I believe Miss Congeniality had already come out. Was this the sequel to Miss Congeniality that came out in 2009?
No, because I actually would rate that higher than this movie,
Oh
personally.
boy. What? Okay, I
Because
know she
Regina
was
King was looking good in Miss Congeniality too.
I
Okay,
know she was
her
I
legs
know
were
she
there.
was in both of those movies. Um I also know she was in and of course I can't see I know these things, I just don't know these things.
It's okay.
Um she was in two really.
Yes. So the movie that it was The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds.
Okay. Okay. I did not know that came out in 2009. Uh I
And
have
I
seen
want,
that movie.
but this is a trail. This is a trail. This is the trivia trail.
Okay, fine. All right. I have seen that movie and I do enjoy that movie.
Okay. I think it's all right. I have other Sandra Bullock
It's
movies
it's
that I love
it's
more.
it's a fun little
Like
the open
Crack.
I take the opening bit is fun of them
Yes.
in the office. I think that's fun, and then it just turns into your normal like like
Yes.
thing. But okay, all right, trail.
Okay.
So there's step one.
There's a trail.
Okay,
There's a trail.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Also, Practical Magic with Sandra Bullock is like one of my favorites. Has a chokehold on me during fall, and you should watch it.
Speed,
Yeah, and
Speed.
Speed.
That
That
was
that
the movie I was thinking of.
were you thinking
Sorry,
Speed? Okay, this with
I was
Keanu.
thinking of other Sandra Bullock movies, and I love Speed.
Just
Not I love Speed. That's gonna get clipped. Okay.
okay. So, Ryan Reynolds is her co-star in that film. Do you know
Yes.
who Ryan Reynolds is married to?
Blake Lively.
Great. Do you know how many children Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have? This is a fun trail. This is a fun trail. I feel like maybe some people already
So
see where I'm going with this.
okay. So I met Ryan Reynolds' trainer and hung out with him in August up in Nashville because
That's
he's
pretty
actually the guys that do my training, and I work with Matt Winning. Don Saladino is his trainer. Shout out to Don. Don's a great guy. I
fancy.
know he's his trainer. They're very good friends. Deadpool program. How many kids do they have? I'm gonna say, oh God, I'm gonna say two. I'm gonna
They
say
have
two.
4. They have
Oh,
way
that's
more children. That's 3 more children than I want.
okay. God, that's five more than I want. Okay. God. Okay, four.
okay, and do you know what artist is so close to Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds that they have name checked 3 of their daughters because they just recently had the 4th. 3 of their daughters in their songs.
Okay.
They're so close.
Can I get a genre to at least?
No. I feel like you're gonna be like, once you see where I made this connection, how I made this connection.
Okay, where you made this connection. Okay, so
Because I'm doing this trail.
oh God,
And it's related to something we were talking about earlier on the phone.
oh, that is so, and I should have maybe listened harder than I was. Oh my God.
You were the one
Okay.
who spurred the conversation about this artist.
Oh, really?
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 Really? Dead ass.
Really?
Who is it?
Is it Taylor Swift?
It's Taylor Swift. And what NFL player is Taylor Swift
Oh,
currently dating?
my number one overall, I guess it was number 5. My first round draft pick in fantasy, number 87, Travis Kelce.
There you go. You did it. You made it. You made it through the trail.
It was a bit of I needed a little help along the way, but I
Yeah.
feel like I did pretty good. I feel like I got there okay. 4 kids. That was
4.
the most surprising thing out of all of that, weirdly
Man,
enough.
and I think they might all 4 be girls. I think that Ryan Reynolds is full girl dad mode, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember what that 4th one. The 4th one was born not long ago, but yeah.
Do you
So
remember the city that they went to in Alaska in the proposal?
was it Anchorage? I don't know any other city in
No,
Alaska.
Sitka. It was
Oh,
Sitka,
Juneau.
Alaska.
I do know Juneau, Alaska. And
See, but those are the things I remember. Those are the things I remember.
that's
So
beautiful.
I have missed out on a few things,
But
but
I love that you saw the proposal. I love that you knew what movie. I
yeah.
love that we made this little connection. I know people are probably watching, and there's somebody out there, there's some football fan who's just like, not Taylor again. Ah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, it's
But not you, Taylor. The
not
other
me.
Taylor.
Yeah, for the first time, folks are like happy that it's me, Taylor. Kind of thing. But
All right, y'all. Well, I think that's about it. This has been Illegal Moves with Liz and Taylor. Taylor, any final words for the people? I think you should always end with wise words. What advice do you have for the folks?
yeah, absolutely. I think that on out there in the world, on any given Sunday, anything can happen. Sometimes you're going to hit a home run, and sometimes you're going to get cross checked into the boards. But remember that you should never give up, and you know, uh, probably go listen to some Taylor Swift because clearly it works for Travis Kelce, and if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
And don't get unlawful conservatorships on people. Okay.
Yeah, don't go do unlawful or untoward things to people. But yeah, I'm racking my brain on what I want our next episode to be. I've got a couple ideas of things I want to throw your way,
Ooh, all right.
because sports has a long and uh, troubled history at points. So
It does. It has many illegal moves. Oh.
trail. All
All
right,
right, y'all. Have a good one.
be good.